On a nice summer day, Robert asked his father how he could become rich. The reply he got was, "Why do you want to become rich, son?" Robert responded by saying, "It's because Jimmy's family drove up in their new car and are going to their beach house over the weekend, and both Mike and I weren't invited because we were poor kids." Shocked, his father simply shook his head and went back to reading his newspaper, thinking about what his son said. Robert eagerly awaited an answer, and his father responded, "If you want to become rich, son, you need to learn how to make money." "How do I do that?" Robert inquired. His father responded by saying, "Use your head," and left him with that. Young Robert and his friend Mike thought about how they could become rich by making money. Soon they came up with an idea where they would quite literally make money while getting the neighborhood to provide them with a portion of their supplies, from used toothpaste tubes, which were made of lead back then, milk cartons, molding, and other items. They carefully crafted lead nickels. They were making money, and Robert's father, in shock, realized exactly what they were doing and gently let them down, informing them of what counterfeiting meant. Their first business venture was closed on the first day. Yet his dad informed him that he was really quite proud of him, and that they did more than most who will only dream about becoming rich and never actually do anything. He told them, "You boys will only be poor if you give up." And these were kind words, yet they still didn't know what to do. So Robert asked, "How come you're not rich, Dad?" And his poor dad responded with, "I chose to be a school teacher, and we focus on teaching rather than about becoming rich. And I want to help you, son, but I don't really know how to make money." The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. Robert's dad then informed his son and Mike that they should talk to Mike's dad, for he heard his banker was quite impressed by how he was doing financially, and that maybe he could help them. Robert and Mike later spoke to Mike's dad, who was quite busy, and Mike's dad asked the question, "So I hear you guys want to learn about making money." Both responded with a yes, and Mike's dad gave them an offer. "I will teach you how to make money, but not in the traditional classroom style. I will have you work for me, and I will teach you. Do you guys agree?" They had questions and wanted, of course, to know more, yet Mike's dad informed them if they want to become rich, they need to recognize when a good opportunity presents itself, and they need to be decisive, because good opportunities come and go, and he was quite busy. "Will you guys take it or leave it?" he said, which they agreed they would take it, albeit reluctantly. Mike's dad set the expectations, and now both Mike and Robert had gotten their first jobs, where they worked for 10 cents an hour and worked 3 hours every Saturday. Robert brought up he had a softball game that day, and Mike's dad again repeated, "Take it or leave it." Robert agreed, deciding to work instead of playing so that he could learn. They were given tasks for moving canned goods off shelves, brushing the cans to clear off the dust, and then putting them back up on the shelves. And after a very boring and repetitive 3 hours, both Mike and Robert earned 3 dimes. Now, even back then in the 1950s, 3 dimes wasn't much. However, a single comic book was only 10 cents, and Robert would often spend his money on comic books and then go home. After 4 weeks of this, he was already ready to quit. He only wanted to work to learn how to make money, but it appeared as if nothing was being taught, and he was a slave for 10 cents an hour. Informing his friend Mike of this, Mike laughed and he said, "I was to bring you to my dad when you wanted to quit." Perplexed as Robert was, he talked to his poor dad, and naturally, as any parent would be, he was furious, and poor dad told Robert he should quit his job immediately. Later on, Robert met with Rich Dad and pleaded his case, how he worked and missed his baseball games, and that he hasn't taught him anything so far. Rich Dad asked him how he knows that he hasn't taught him anything. He explains, "You haven't even talked to me since I started working for you." Mike's dad reiterates that it's a different teaching method and says this is an important life lesson. One of the best teachers who doesn't speak to you. If you learn this, you'll become wealthy and wise, and if you don't, then you'll always be blaming a job, your boss, or always hoping for a big break that'll solve your money problems. Realize that the problem isn't me, but yourself. Many people will quit, find another job that doesn't pay them much, or even take on 2 jobs to earn more money, never solving the long-term problem. Beginning to somewhat understand, Robert asked, "What will solve the problem?" And Rich Dad jokingly mentioned, "This stuff in between your ears." Rich Dad later expounded and shared his different point of view, and that was, the poor and the middle class work for money, and the rich have money work for them. Learning from this new point of view, Robert noticed over the years both his poor dad and his rich dad wanted him to learn, but different things. His highly educated poor dad recommended that he study hard, get good grades so that he could get a safe job with a big company with great benefits. His rich dad wanted him to learn how money works so that he could learn how to make money work for him. Wouldn't everybody want to learn this? Robert asked his rich dad. No, because it's easier to work for money than to have money work for you. And fear is the primary emotion that drives people and their decision to work for money. Fear of not being able to pay their bills, fear of being fired, and the fear of starting over. Rich Dad pointed out that most people experience what you did with the 10 cents an hour, but it's for 40 to 50 years, not just for 4 weeks. And you were more fortunate because you were able to keep it all. Robert asked, people don't keep all the money they work for? No, said Rich Dad, the government takes their share first, and that's taxes. Taxes are one of the wealth destroyers. You're taxed when you spend, when you earn, and even when you die. Learning about money will help you pay less in taxes, and this is why I make more money than your dad and pay less in taxes than he does. Many people don't learn about money and wonder why they have money problems after college. I have and will continue to learn about money throughout my entire life, so I don't have those problems. People's lives are controlled primarily by two emotions, fear and greed. Fear of not having money, where people get up, go to work, and use the money to pay bills to just live. More bills come in, and they keep working until hopefully they can retire or the government takes care of them. They will get raises here and there, and once they get offered more money, their greed kicks in, with all of the nice things that they can buy, so they increase their spending. And on it goes. This is what I call the rat race, and many people will do this for most of their lives. These emotions are very powerful, and without being fully aware, they keep people in the workforce, instead of thinking about another way of doing things. Is there another way, Robert asked? There is, but having lots of money isn't the answer. What do you mean? Asked Robert. I want you guys to both be able to overcome the real problem, your emotions. Even if you become rich, you can still be controlled by desire, the emotion for wanting more, something prettier, something grander. And there's no problem with wanting a better life, but if it's insatiable, you'll need more and more money to buy more things. So you'll keep working thinking money will solve the fear and desire you now have, even though you are wealthy. And as a rich person, you struggle with a strong fear of losing it all, working even though you have plenty to ensure you don't lose it all, such as the money, the nice houses, the nice cars. People can't bear to think of what would happen if they would lose it all. Work on being an observer and not a reactor to your emotions. This will make more sense as you get older, Rich Dad assured. Robert asked, is that why my dad gave me the advice of do good in school so I can find a safe, secure job? Rich Dad replies with, yes it is. And that recommendation is based off of what emotion? Robert questionably asks, is it fear? Yes, says Rich Dad, and this is a good path for a lot of people, but the reason he is saying this is he loves you and doesn't want you to fail and not have money for yourself. I believe a job and having money are important, but it doesn't handle the emotions. I want you to both master money so you won't be a slave to money. If you guys became rich and didn't overcome fear and greed, you guys would be controlled by fear and desire. Now listen, school is still very important because the world needs various professions for society to function. Schools teach this, and for most, this is the end of their learning, but there's so much more to learn. So think of school as just the beginning, and ignorance is what causes the greed and fear cycle. And instead of reacting to your emotions, I recommend that you use them to think. Your thought process is how you can come up with another way, and reacting to our emotions is why people go to work every day for the carrot of money. They are in a fear and greed cycle. A job is only a short-term solution to a long-term problem, and money is an illusion. Money is created by the government and banks legally, but it is illegal for you or I to create money as they do. This is a big reason why the rich don't work for money. They know the illusion. Ever since the dollar was taken off of the gold standard, it has no real weight. When the dollar was backed by gold, it held actual value, and since being taken off, it has become fiat money, or money that isn't backed by anything. Rich Dad warned that if this happened, the gap between the rich and the poor will widen greatly, and the poor will be seeking to rely heavily upon the government for support, which will only widen the gap more, unfortunately. This is why it is so important to keep learning, especially about important topics like finance, so you can understand the whole picture, not just a snippet. Stay tuned for the next part of this series, where we will go more in depth on the solutions from financial literacy to business and how the rich make money work for them. And if this video helped you, like and subscribe so it may help others, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.